you on speaker so you can hear.
It is Monday, July the 13th, 2020. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the Commissioners Court is in session for a budget workshop. So, I think what we've got on here is department budget, staffing issues, capital budget request, and overall budget planning.
We have Commissioner Letts on phone.
Okay, and for those that want to call in, the number is 830-792-6161.
All right, well, we'll start off the meeting. We don't necessarily have a particular department budget schedule, but we're going to go over the changes that were under consideration from day 1 and day 2 of the budget workshop and just verify that those are still good. You should have a June 24th worksheet like this.
Yes?
If y'all want to just start from the top to the bottom, or you want to take a look at it and see if there's anything you disagree with.
Well, you're going to have to explain what some of them are, because it's just refresh our memory, if you will.
We'll start at the top. 401 was conferences. That's for the Commissioners Court. That was increasing it by $500, which brought it back to the initial. Are y'all good with that one? The second one is going to be 3 changes in the Animal Service Department. We had increased vet service, increased operating expense, and decreased capital outlay. Really, we were moving that capital outlay into operating expense because that was a better category for it.
James, one thing Commissioner Letts told me from this morning is having trouble hearing, and you're a little low. Could you speak up a little?
Absolutely. The next one is going to be capital outlay for the sheriff. This may be a topic of broader scope than this, but as we currently have it, the capital outlay is for the vehicles in his department. It is not part of the tax note, but as we get into that discussion, the court can decide which option they want to do. We also have the Child Services Board. We had initially brought that down to 0, but we took it back up to 8,000. I think the court had decided that was a worthy cause. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, I don't remember the discussion, but okay, good.
I think that's the board that Jody's on, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yes.
Same with the Dieter claim. We initially brought that to 0, but we were going to fund that for $4,500. That's tied into the large grant they received.
Right.
Correct.
Historical Commission, I believe Commissioner Ballou was going to check to see if we were required to fund that or not. I don't know if we've ever got that answer. Building and ground maintenance, we had decreased by $5,000. That's in the Hill Country Youth Exhibition Center Department. Also, we have a permanent improvement fund that has approximately $39,000 in it right now. I believe the part of the discussion was having a fund that we could start to do reoccurring maintenance on, such as painting. So we put a budget into that to allow us to expend it. Fire protection. This is going to be the volunteer fire departments. Again, that's part of the discussion of how y'all want to fund.
Weren't they supposed to come in like July 20th?
20th, I believe.
20th, right.
And I told them right now we just kind of got a placeholder. Right.
We got a line item, yeah, and they're going to come in July 20th with what their wish list is.
Or what they need.
Well, it's wish list, then we said with that bucket, then we would allocate based on justified needs.
Well, I kind of like using it. I don't disagree,
Yeah.
but I kind of like the term needs list rather than wish list.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's a need.
Yeah,
Believe
but then we're still later on or next year when that's going to create the bucket. Okay, then when they come in with their justified needs, and we say, okay, we allocate you this amount. Right. Okay. So it's a matter of.
I think we can dig deeper into it on the 20th.
Yeah. Right.
On the summary sheet that you have across all these funds, right now, there is $100,000. That's your placeholder.
Yeah.
So the next change is going to be the 198th VA. Y'all have decreased it by $5,000, the professional service account. Moving on to indigent health fund, y'all had made 2 reductions in there, one to physician services, one to employee training, for a total of $9,000.
Wait, say all that again, engine?
Well, he's combining those.
Y'all had decreased physician services by $7,500 and employee training by $1,500.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Is there anything on this first page that y'all wish to change or discuss? So far, so good.
So far, so good.
We'll move along to the June 29th meeting.
All right.
We had moved the court reporter's salary from county court into commissioner's court. That was going to be $20,000, which was more or less a part-time position. As we get into the staffing issues section of this, y'all may want to discuss how y'all want to fund that. The next one was a reduction in county clerk, the probate seminar. We had decreased by $2,000. Capital outlay in 10408, which is IT, we had increased by $28,000.
That's IT?
Yes, sir. The next 2 are going to be environmental health. Y'all had a reduction of $700.
Hey, go back. I can't remember the discussion on IT for 28,000. I'm sure it's.
What was it, Bruce?
That was the 10% of what there was before.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Keep
good enough.
something in that.
Something in. Okay. Good enough. Thanks.
For environmental health, y'all have 2 reductions, $700 of on-site council fees and $500 in operating equipment. For road and bridge, there were several changes. Fuel was reduced by $15,000. Fence repairs reduced $16,192. Contract fees reduced $19,231. We had combined those categories into the contingency account, which had an increase of $20,000. You'll also see the CTIF grant match. That's our portion. $22,774 was added. And there was 2 reductions, one in aggregate, one in asphalt, both of $11,387. Those 2 combined total the $22,774 for our grant match. For the records management and preservation fund, they had removed all the part-time salary. They don't have a need for that. And along with that came the FICA and retirement. Changes that were requested outside of the last 2 departments over the past week. The sheriff wanted to add $8,425 to his investigation expense. This is for the Maxar fingerprint and server. In order to keep his balance the same as it was discussed, there was a reduction in capital outlay of $8,425. The reason we were able to do that is the trade-in value was not built in, so we feel like we have a little wiggle room for that. Also, the county jail, for the video magistration, which I believe was approved today, we had a reduction of $8,100. A portion of this is going to be paid through the COVID grant that we received. The remaining portion, which will be for next year, which is outside of the date that we have allowable expenses for, that'll be the $8,100 total. Also, maintenance had requested that we include $9,000 in major repairs. This is for an air conditioning replacement here at the courthouse. It's on the Fritz.
That's at the courthouse?
Yes, sir. He thinks he can get us through to the end of the year, but there's just too many problems with it.
Right.
For the county clerk, she had proposed that we take 20% out of 9 of her employees' salaries that are related to records retention. Various salary accounts, that total reduction in the general fund is $53,066. She's able to take that out of general fund and put it in her dedicated.
That's because he's using the dedicated fund to
That's correct.
partially fund those salary positions.
Correct. Is there anything on day 2 that y'all have?
Let's see, and we had a question on KEDC, and I think I sent that to you, what that was, 39.5?
Yes, sir. We
So
have.
that's in here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we were waiting on the airport for their budget?
That's correct.
Correct. Because I know we talked about, instead of with the funds that they had, instead of giving 25,000 ramp grant match, we just say, let's look at zeroing that, but we decided to wait till they come in with their budget, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when they plan on.
I think it's
officially-
pretty soon, yeah.
I know they've met with the city and the county individually, but they usually come
Correct,
do an official one during.
right. You might want to tell Mary that,
Yeah.
to present that, okay.
I know she had plans to. I talked with her last week about it, but I didn't get a date.
Okay, okay, thanks.
So those are all the changes that have been made. If there's anything y'all want to change, now's the time to let me know so I can build that into the budget.
Nope. I think you summarized it pretty good, thanks, James.
Okay. What are we working on today?
We can,
Whatever else is on the list. I don't know if y'all.
What do we have on there?
solidifies.
The capital outlay?
We got department budgets, staffing issues, capital budget request, and overall budget planning.
staffing was probably the court reporter, how y'all want me to allocate that to which departments.
Well, I really haven't sat down to try to figure out how to do that. The truth of the matter is that the only things that, as the county judge, that I need a court reporter for are the mental health cases. I can be optional to use her on a disputed probate matter. If it's a contested probate matter, you have to have a certified shorthand court reporter. And I did sit down and kind of come up with an estimate of how much time that takes. On mental health, I think being very, very liberal with this, maybe 5 hours a month, maybe. And if I wanted to be equally liberal with contested probate and keep doing those. With contested probate, I can transfer the case to the county court of law that has a court reporter. So that's the safety net there. But even if I kept the contested probate, that wouldn't be any more than maybe 5 hours a month.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at 10 hours a month, not even a week, a month for this. And with roll-ups, I think the court reporter is costing the county a little over $100,000. And so I'm having a hard time justifying that expense. What we have done, I've been very proactive, worked with Bruce. We now are following up with the BIS, which is a digital recording program that we can use in juvenile, and that's been paid for through the juvenile board. It didn't come out of the county budget. Jason took care of that, and that is a program that you actually put on your computer, and then you record the proceeding, and then give it to Bruce, and then loads it on a server. There'll be a dedicated server for the juvenile probation department because they have to maintain the confidentiality of their records. And so we're talking about, and that cost us less than $3,000 to do that. We wanted to do that with mental health. MHDD agreed, but then we got an attorney general opinion that is just all over the place that says that we've got to have a shorthand court reporter for these mental health cases. So Jonathan's on the phone. He's the one that always talks about wanting to have a transcript of the commissioner's court. Legally, we are not required to have a certified shorthand court reporter for commissioner's court. We are the only commissioner's court in probably a 10-county radius until you get to Bexar County that has it.
Mm-hmm.
But you do get a question-answer transcript that gets posted on the website for every week's meetings. And so to allocate that between commissioner's court and the county judge's budget, I think I figured out that with everything, I think, and I don't know what to do.
But when you went through the number of hours that you think like 5 hours a month, 5 hours, so it's like 10 hours a month or
Yep.
something like that?
Yep.
Is all you need. And then I'm with Jonathan, I think having a transcript that you can search, because we do that all the time.
We do.
I mean, we do it, and I shouldn't say all the time, frequently, all right?
She
I'll be
does.
more exact. Do it frequently, and I know Kelly does. It's
off
been
Campbell Road and Bridge.
extremely helpful to have that record of what was said, what the decision was, and if we don't have that, if we'd spend a lot of time looking at some video, figure it out. Or somebody would spend a lot of time. You'd probably spend, well, period. So,
Well, and I can disclose that Bruce and I looked at, I think it was Granicus, wasn't that the name of it? Which is the same provider that the city uses on their website. And they have some pretty impressive services, which is all tied to the agenda. And it's very searchable through the agenda, so that if we're talking about an agenda item and you want to search it, you can go back to that agenda item and be able to see what was said about that topic. And we looked at the initial cost of the equipment and the monthly charges, and I'm trying to remember, Bruce, we were talking about, what, maybe $40,000 the first year?
A little around 50.
50?
for
First
that
year,
service,
for the first year, and then,
And then it drops to about half of that.
yeah. And we could, set up a demonstration if you want to see that.
so for 40,000, so let's just say 100,000 is right, and then you need 10 hours a month, which is,
Yeah.
not very much, noise level.
I think her rate is somewhere around $18, $20 an hour, is what it averages out to.
Okay, so that's not too much, okay? So 40,000 versus 100,000, say 45,000, so
Let's just say 50.
55,000, and so that's what we'd be paying for searchable by word as opposed to searchable by agenda item. And then when you find the agenda item, then you have to go and listen to the video or the tape or whatever they have.
One of the things that the Granicus product has is a closed captioning feature. That's what the city uses. It is just like a closed caption on your TV screen. There's a live person transcribing that as it's spoken.
So that's a transcript. I mean, it may not
Well,
be,
It's not like we're used to, no.
It's
but
not a
yes, it is
certified-
transcript.
yeah, it's not certified, right,
Right.
It's a certified shorthand court reporter, that's the expense.
right. So, but so there's a verbal documentation of what was said.
And written,
And it's,
Once everything is finalized.
and is it searchable?
Yes.
yes.
It's, so that's searchable. So you have an audio recording that's searchable. I mean, an audio transcript.
And video.
That's
Audio and
But it's
video.
video.
Okay, so it sounds like it's
Times
pretty searchable.
You can search it by agenda item.
Okay.
You can use the closed captioning text,
Right.
which actually is saved after the fact as a text file, and you can search that file.
Okay.
And it's running between 90 and 95% accuracy.
And then print it out just like
Yeah.
the
Yep.
certified.
Yeah.
Judge, this is Jonathan. As I've said before, I'm interested in looking at a test of that to see how accurate it is for us.
Right.
My experience has been that they're not real accurate. But I'm willing to look at it. I'm all for saving money. I just think that we need to have a written transcript of the meetings or something that's very easily searchable.
Right.
Right.
And I agree
I agree with
100%. So let's get them in here and let us see it. Okay.
We can do that.
I'll reach out.
Okay.
Okay.
And instead of just showing us something real time, bring an example from the city and we'll go look for something and see how easy it is to find.
Okay.
If you can do that. Okay.
Okay. So what else we got?
Let's see. We have our capital budget requests.
Yes, that hasn't changed.
Yeah. Yes,
James,
it
I got
decreased
tell
it
them
some.
about my mistake on that.
So with that, we're still waiting on the airport, because I hear rumblings and rumors like they want some capital investments out there, so we're waiting for that, so, okay, okay? So we're not saying yay or nay on that. Okay.
When I submitted my numbers, and they look so much alike, I submitted a 2019 quote on the dump truck. And that sheet that I had given you where we did the 2 shredders and a dump truck, and you had budgeted $130,000. 2019 number was $97,866. The 2020 number for the same dump truck is $102,210.
About 5,000 more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I will need, the exact number is $4,344 added on to that 130. And I apologize for that. That was my
Okay.
mistake.
5% increase.
Okay?
Thank you.
Is this dump truck, you know, I know we got one last year, and is one going out of the rotation, or were we adding
A
to?
lot of times what we'll do with some of the dump trucks is we'll put side loader boxes on them, or we'll enclose the dump bed and make a wood chip box, so when you're blowing the
Right,
wood chips in, it's not flying all over,
I got you.
you know, the area. Because those trucks don't necessarily go out every single day. The dump trucks that are assigned to a crew usually go out every day.
What's
So-
our numbers of dump trucks now, or,
Well, each crew has, I don't have that number exactly right in front of me, but each crew is assigned a dump truck. So we have 5 work areas, so you have 5 trucks on that.
okay,
Then we have probably, I think we have 4 dump trucks that were taken out of the regular fleet and had side loader boxes put on them so you could do edge patching. And then we converted 2 dump trucks into chip box trucks, which we enclosed the bed on. So, you know,
That's
I would,
11.
we have quite a few. But
Okay.
what we've done is we've taken and tried to extend the life of some of the trucks that don't
These other
necessarily
jobs.
go out all the time.
right, gotcha,
So,
just
So
curious.
how many miles of roads do we have? 1,100?
well, Kerr County is 1,100 square miles. We
So you
have
got a
about
dump-
451 miles approximately, and we have 602 roads.
So you have a dump truck per 100 miles is what it amounts to. Not bad. Same size as your wrench.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay?
James mentioned our change at the beginning. It wasn't discussed in the last budget workshop because we didn't know about it then. We were still waiting to see if we were even going to have prices. And what that is, it affected the capital outlay and the investigative expense. We finally got a bid. We have a fingerprint AFID, automated fingerprint identification system, that is tied in actually to all the surrounding counties. Anybody that goes to jail in those counties, their fingerprints get dumped into our database and our system that we got through a grant years ago. It's been probably at least 10, 15 years, okay? And it's an easier, quicker way to identify suspect fingerprint when you have one, other than waiting 6 months to a year to get it back from Austin. So we can do it locally, been able to do it. But the hard drive, I guess, the server and all that has not been updated since the day we got it. We have a maintenance contract on it, which helps the software and keep all that part, but the server itself hadn't been. And IT's telling me it's about 4 out, so that cost is $8,425 that I did not know about. So the way James and I visited about doing it, we put the $8,425 into the criminal investigative expense line item, and we deducted $8,425 out of my capital outlay line item, which the capital outlay is just the vehicles. Now, he justifies that, and I agree with him that we can do that because we have not figured anywhere in the budget we're getting 7 new vehicles, but we haven't figured in what we will be getting as a trade-in for the 7 old ones. And that should easily make up, when you put 7 in there together,
I think that's right.
$8,400. And that's how we're trying to cover that expense. Okay? And there was one in the jail. What was that, James? The jail one?
Operating
Oh,
equipment.
the jail one
Video
was just the video magistration.
Which we talked about this morning.
Talked about this morning, signed the contract.
Okay.
No, there was one piece of information y'all had called us, or asked us to do. We were talking about the deficit in our retirement, the underfunded portion of that.
Yeah.
In our budget, we had $70,000 in non-departmental. This was to pay an additional amount on top of the required amount that TCDRS had set. As of, let's see. Yeah, I think as of April of this year, our funded ratio in our retirement is 87.7%, and the dollar amount that we are underfunded by is $9,453,520. This again valuation was taken pre-COVID recession for the most part, so you probably expect that funding ratio to drop a little bit more once they come out with new figures next year.
Okay. So going back to the spreadsheet,
Yes.
the way we're looking right now is right at a $1.3 million deficit.
Correct, across all funds, yes. That would still leave us with about 28.62% fund balance, approximately in the general fund. Across all general funds, you're looking at 27.55% fund balance. So
If, on that same sheet, if you were, so we've got, I'm sorry, Judge, interrupt you?
Yeah, well,
Okay, so 1.3 shortfall, and if you just took the general fund from 27.55 fund balance to 25, that'd be 700,000 right there. So if we say, okay, we're gonna make it 25% fund balance reserve rather than 27.55, that would cut the,
cut it in half.
well, it would cut, that would be $700,000. So it'd be about cut in half, yeah.
Right. And it'd still be pretty good cushion.
Well, you know, it's glass is half full or half empty, but
Right.
last year we looked at a $2.7 million deficit, and where we stand right now, it looks like we're cutting that about in half.
Right.
And
And we cut that in half again by
You're right.
going to 25%. So anyway,
We
it's
still got some
good-
heavy
it's not a
lifting
bad
to
place
do.
to be right now in the budget.
well, and so
process.
that everybody understands what we're talking about when we start talking about the general fund and the total general funds and the percentages. The guidelines from the state, from TAC, is to try to keep at least 25% in reserve. That's 3 months' worth of operating expenses. And at 27.5, we're a little over the 25 guideline. And so if we took that money out, it's kind of like spending your savings account. If we spent $700,000 out of our general fund to pay down this deficit so that we don't have such a big deficit, that would be the net result of what we're trying to do.
And I think we've got some more things coming in, like I think
We still got
probably
some.
the volunteer fire
Without a
department
doubt.
come in with a lot more than 100,000
We
have in the bucket.
that's gonna be some heavy lifting.
Well, we can talk about that, but I think it's important that we keep in mind, when we met with volunteer fire departments, we only had one that was even close to not being able to keep the doors open for at least 2 years. Everybody else was talking about 3 years or better.
Right.
And so I don't know how much money we spend deficit to fund something that, yeah, it's a very worthwhile program. What they do is great. But do we spend today's dollars in this environment with this COVID-19 crisis?
Right.
Do we spend today's dollars for monies that are not even going to be spent for 2 or 3 years?
I agree with that, but let's wait till they get in here.
Let's,
That
yeah,
20th.
let's do it. Let's
That's
see
right.
what it is. Right.
Let's listen to them.
Okay.
And also just one thing kind of about spending on all of our fund balance right now, our excess, is I really think the COVID-19 is hiding some of the effect that Senate Bill 2 is going to have on us. If you look at what's not in this budget besides the airport, it's also any kind of raise or consideration for employees as far as their take-home pay.
Right.
So next year, this year we'd be limited to 3.25. We'd be limited to that same 3.25 next year. So I just want to, I think that's part of what this conversation should be about
Exactly.
also.
Right. But this year, yeah, okay. You said 3.25, it's 3.5, isn't it?
3.5.
3.5.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure that
Yeah.
then there's a quarter% there somewhere.
And I think that's an important thing for everybody to
Without a
understand.
doubt.
And when I say everybody, I'm talking about the public and the taxpayers. Is we've asked our employees to step up this year and help us try to balance this budget. No COLA, no raises, no new hires. That's pretty austere to do that. I would say not every single department, because there were some that couldn't, but I would say on the neighborhood of 90% of our departments either came in at the proposed budget that I made for them or below. And so what we're looking at here is teamwork. We're working together as a team. And I hate to have to go 2 years without doing something for our employees.
Well, and we don't know what it's gonna look like 3 months, 6 months from now. I mean, good
I think
grief.
we all know that.
Well, we weren't running around with these things 6 months ago.
So I tend to err on the side of keeping a heftier fund balance, just in case.
So we will take a look. So we know where we are today, okay? Then what's our next input to this thing to have this
15th.
sheet updated? We didn't,
So, James, if I'm not mistaken, everything we talked about today is
Is
already
here.
included in
Yep.
the sheet.
All the
Okay.
changes are included.
okay.
And a big part of this too is we still don't have the appraisal
Right.
rates yet.
Right.
And
When do we get
so
that?
We do not get those until July the 25th, I believe, is when they're supposed to certify. Now, whether
Okay.
they can certify or it's an estimate, as we heard this.
Well, let's just assume estimate. Okay.
So, yes, so in kind of looking at our budget schedule, probably Wednesday, we probably will not have any new information by then. So
Okay.
I think we'd be safe by saying don't have a meeting.
Okay,
Wait for the 20th?
And it sounds like on Monday, the next Monday, we'll be looking, it sounds like from the airport, maybe, I've got a list that I'm still kind of researching on some of the funds that have been sitting there for a while that we're not expending. And so is there a way to close out those funds and transfer that money so we can add that to it for this
Okay.
next year? Also, we still probably won't know anything about property taxes. I've asked Jennifer, y'all may not want it, to see if the TAP representative could talk to us about that retirement that we keep talking about. You know, they actually said they think we should lower it to 13 point something on a rate, which is down. And so we need to at least keep it the same, but we did put in the budget an increase up to 70,000. So that's kind of the decision y'all may want to look at deeper, but if y'all are fine with the 70,000, because we know the amount that's in that fund has decreased. We know that. So if y'all are fine with it, we don't have to hear the TAC representative on Monday if they could show up. I think that's the.
Do another thing just to have on the side. Do what a 1% increase in salary would be and a 2%, just to have as a number.
Okay. We will get that.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
we've looked at that.
I mean,
a
just
little bit.
an
We're trying to-
estimate, it doesn't have to be exact, right?
So you don't think we need to meet on Wednesday then?
Good.
I would say not. I would say
Okay.
let's look at Monday.
We don't have-
That'll be our last meeting until
Okay.
August the 3rd. The August the 3rd, we should be able to talk about, what our possible tax rate will be, and then, look at the effect of all of that. I would like to even kind of have another discussion about the capital outlay going into debt, just because, again, my concern with the 3.5% limit. I'm just, we need to see what the property taxes are going to do.
And I wanna hear it. Yeah.
Well, and just to refresh everybody's recollection, we're talking about approximately $900,000 worth of capital outlay. And if we finance it over a 3-year period, which would be like financing a car, and we'd be buying 7 cars with it, and some road and bridge. Instead of having to book $900,000 worth of expense in M&O, we would book 1/3 of that for the first year, and we would move it out of, the other $600,000 would move out of M&O and go over to INS, which materially affects how we calculate our effective tax rate. So it's a win-win for us.
Right.
And again, just a reminder that interest rates are at a historic low.
Right,
So this is, if we're gonna do something like this is a good time to do it.
makes sense. Yep.
The only comment I want to bring up on that, Judge, is that we do that, we have to start thinking 3 years down the line as to what we're going to be spending on these vehicles, because we're going to get caught in the 3rd year if we finance 3 years in a row, and if we don't, then we're paying whatever the vehicles are plus the debt on what we buy this year. So we have to look at this over a 3-year period and be aware kind of where we're going.
Explain that again.
Say that again.
Yeah,
If we finance things like vehicles, we know that next year we're going to need to buy vehicles again.
right.
So all of a sudden, if we borrow money again, then this year we pay $300,000. Next year it'll be $300 for this year's plus $300,000 for next year's. Then the year after that, we buy 7 more vehicles or more vehicles. We do the same thing again. So in 3 years, we're committing the court the $900,000, whereas this year's only, and then extending that into the future every year. So we just have to be mindful that we're aware of what
Right.
we're doing to the next budget.
I understand. And of course, the rationale in my mind behind it was, hopefully, in 2 years, in 3 years, we're gonna be in a whole lot better place than we are this year.
And part of that.
Hopefully,
Part of that also is, again, the effects of Senate Bill 2. And so that would be moving the purchase of the vehicles from the maintenance and operations into capital, into that debt service, so that it would be paid with the debt service portion of the property taxes.
I do agree with the judge that I'm reluctant to use too much out of reserves. I would rather keep reserves over 25%, because next year, one, we'll have vehicles again. The other thing is that, hopefully we'll be able to give the employees some sort of an increase. So we're looking at a pretty tough year next year, and if we can build up the reserve a little bit, it'll lessen that blow next year.
Makes sense.
I agree.
Right.
Yes, sir?
On the other hand, I don't know if it's staying maintenance and operations part of it, but what we have done in the past with vehicles too, is actually do the lease purchase, which is where you lease them and cut that payment down to a third, okay? And then it's leasing them for 3 years, and then last year they're $1 or something like that, depending on the lease. But it would cut the $413,000 that I had budgeted for the 7 vehicles in mine down to a third of that, because that's all you'd be paying for the first year.
That's right.
Okay, it's just a different option, but I don't know how that works for
Yeah, those stay in M&O because the vehicle is what is collateralizing the lease purchase, not property taxes.
And then my only last thing I have to say is, if y'all aren't gonna have a meeting Wednesday, I know this will break your heart, but I will be out of town next Monday, so you won't get to have me.
All the more reason to do it.
Are you being detained? Are you being detained?
I'm being detained.
Anything else we should go over now, today? Well, I would like to make sure that the employees know, I'd like for the department heads and the officials to communicate to the employees how appreciative this court really is for the way they have stepped up to help us in the COVID-19 year, in this annual budget process. We couldn't do it without them. And so, a big thank you.
Their neighbors appreciate it too.
Yes, they do.
Well, one other thing I think ought to be taken into consideration, that I was talking to Bob about it last week, is we've been fortunate in Kerr County. You know, COVID-19 shut everybody down from going to San Antonio and places like that, spend money. From what I understand, our sales tax
Right.
revenues in
It
Kerr
bumped
County
up.
are up higher than they have been. And regardless of, you know, I think what y'all listened to this morning with the appraisals and your comments about it were very legitimate, because mine too went up, the same thing. But still, even if they do go up a certain portion, you know, the two revenue streaming funds that Kerr County gets, being sales tax and being, you know, property tax, are going up. So how are we being hurt in it at this point? So I just, as far as looking at it for employees, and I appreciate Mr. Moser asking for them to look at 1% or 2%, I think that is legitimate, because, you know, one thing y'all saw even in my budget is food prices also went way up for everybody.
Yes. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, going once, going twice, we're adjourned.